Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. First and foremost, apart from participating, I would also like to congratulate you because you're close to the end of the class. Now, I know that it's been a long journey. It's been about 7 or 8 weeks. The final classes will be upper week. So next week, which is an Easter week, we'll have you just have classes on Friday and Saturday. And in respect for Easter Sunday, we'll be pushing the next class to Friday. That's upper Friday. But now, what's surprising is that for the first time, we're going to have a virtual graduation. So I think being first set to do that should be something that should excite everyone. So we have a virtual graduation for everyone. And then we also would be awarding our prizes, the 2 prizes we spoke about. I think one is for attendance, one is for best overall student, and then one is for best assignments. We look forward to, of course, that graduation. I must thank the head of literacy right now, which is Mr. Wuni Hassan Bello. She's been a darling team comprising everybody, Chichi, Maureen, our facilitators, INEC, who's moderator here, Adishola, who also was a moderator, Wanko Godson also. Well, I'll make all the statements, I should say, before graduation. So anyway, let's look forward to a great class. Chichi, I'm expecting our Deputy Director of Lagos to deliver something great. And yes, I decided to pimp myself in the Electoral College colors ahead of everybody. So I look forward to a great class. You guys have fun, and I look forward to passing mic back to Ini, who's the moderator of this class. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you very much, Edie. Glad to have you here. Once again, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's class. Interestingly, we'll be having 2 facilitators, so I know it's going to be doubly packed. Today, we are looking at the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution and Citizen Rights. The Nigerian Constitution and Citizens' Rights, 719. We have 2 facilitators, our dear Edie, who just spoke, Kunle Lawal. We have introduced him a number of times, so we'll just, observe, say all protocols observed, and move on to his co-facilitator, Uchechi Ezenyi Rioha. Forgive me if I misspelled or mispronounced your name, please. Uchechi is a legal practitioner with a key focus on technology law and regulatory compliance. She serves as a legal consultant to the foremost inter-country adoption agency in Nigeria, Life Foundation, BBC News Nigeria, and the Electoral College. She is the head legal consultant of Zoe Legal, a corporate, commercial, and startup legal advisory firm in Lagos State. She has worked with several local and international bodies on fintech, telecommunications, employment law, and immigrations. In addition to her legal practice, she is very keen on public advocacy and the education of Nigerian youths on politics and governance. She serves in the Electoral College as a Deputy Director, Lagos State. Uchechi is called to the Nigerian bar and has obtained an LLM in International Commercial Law from the University of Hertfordshire. She runs a podcast called Zoe Legal, where she speaks on legal issues and is keen on using her platform to encourage awareness and education of the masses. With this, I'd like us to give a hearty welcome in the chat room to our facilitator, Uchechi, and of course, her co-facilitator, Kunle Lawal. Please let us see in the chat box, give her a warm welcome, your favorite emojis, put them there. Uchechi, you're welcome. We're glad to have you. And we look forward to an amazing evening.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful welcome. I hope everyone can hear me and see my slides. Please indicate.
Yes, we can. Yes, I can hear you and I can see your slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. And thank you to Mr. Kunle Lawal for the opportunity. I'd like to say that I was once also, on the other side of the screen. I was once a student as well. And I would say that the Electoral College has been such an awesome experience. Currently, I am the DD Lagos State, and with the help of Mr. Kunle Lawal, I have been able to grow in my strides, and I am looking forward to a fantastic evening with you all. So like the moderator rightly said, we're going to be talking today about the Nigerian Constitution and citizens' rights. So first off, from the perspective of a lawyer, and also from someone who has been very active in the political terrain, Mr. Kunle Lawal, I'm very sure you people will have a lot of questions. So I'm just going to give a short presentation. Please have all your questions ready. I'm sure that this is going to be quite an interactive session. All right, now on to the slides. So I'm just going to talk about a general overview of rights, also talking about the rule of law as well. I will touch on the legal framework of citizens' rights here in Nigeria, also civic and political rights, and finally, I'll touch on the Nigerian Constitution and all of the various laws that govern the citizens' rights. Now, when you're talking about citizens' rights in Nigeria, you cannot help but mention the rule of law, right? So for human rights to be respected and upheld, the rule of law must always be active, it must be practicable, and it must be functional. A key guarantor of the rule of law in any society is a democracy. And you will all agree with me that Nigeria is, in theory, a democratic society, right? The rule of law in a democratic society, it helps to preserve, protect the rights of humans and citizens, and it is also a doctrine. So to define it in very short terms, the rule of law is a doctrine that says that every single person is under the law. The law is supreme and it is not a respecter of persons, right? So the principles of rule of law is that the law is superior, there has to be separation of powers, the laws have to be known and predictable. Also, the judiciary has to be independent, and there has to be a right for the citizens to participate in that society. Now, talking about rights in general terms, rights are just legal and social ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That means you're saying that by virtue of the fact that you're part of a society, there are certain entitlements that are accrued to you as just for the mere fact that you're a citizen. And this has to do with the legal system of that particular society. So in Nigeria, for instance, the legal framework for the rights of its citizens are embedded in the Constitution. The Constitution is what we call, in legal terms, we call it the ground norm of a society. I hope I'm not too fast. Anyway, we call it the ground norm of the society. That means that every other sub-law gets its legitimacy or its legality from the Constitution. So much so that if any law is in contravention to any provision of the Constitution, that law is void to the level of its contravention to the Constitution. So under the Constitution, because we're talking specifically about civic and political rights, we have the Electoral Act, which was promulgated from the Constitution, and also we have INEC regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections. Nigeria also has ratified some UN treaties that impose clear obligations on the government or the authority to respect, promote, and protect citizens' rights within every jurisdiction without any distinction of any kind whatsoever. Nigeria is also a member of the African Union, and Nigeria has ratified some citizens' rights treaties, including the African Charter for Human and People's Rights, which places an obligation on Nigeria and its government to promote and protect human and people's rights. So if you look very closely at the next slide, these are some of the treaties that Nigeria has ratified and the dates of its ratification. So we have treaties such as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which obviously codifies the fact that everyone has a right to vote and should not be discriminated against based on their culture or their religion, right? We have things like elimination for all, the International Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, and also for elimination for discrimination against women as well. So Nigeria has all of these human rights codified in their laws. Therefore, it means that in theory, obviously, that the government ought to see to it that its citizens' rights are protected. Also, in the Nigerian Constitution, we have in Chapter 4 of the Constitution a couple of rights and obligations that protect the citizens, right? So we're going to look more in depth into these rights in the coming slides. Okay, because we are in a polytracy class, we're going to be looking very closely at civic and political rights. So the civic and political rights are pretty much rights that refer to an individual's ability to participate in the civil and political life of that society without any form of fear or repression or discrimination. And it is very tied closely to your citizenship status in that country. So it's not just by mere geographical location. So by saying that, I mean that someone from, say, Asia, an Asian or a Chinese, does not have the same civic and political rights as you have because you are a citizen of Nigeria, right? So for example, some of the civic rights include the right to vote in an election, right to join a political party, right to run for office, even right to freely participate in political rallies, events, and protests. And this also includes right to ensure that the physical and mental integrity of its citizens are protected and they are not discriminated against based on their sexual orientation, ethnicity. And these rights include rights of such as privacy and expression of your thoughts and speech, and freedom of assembly and movement. Now, looking at political rights, this also includes rights to fairness, to be heard, to seek redress in case anyone has infringed on your rights. You know, there are different procedural laws that have been laid down that each citizen can seek for redress. There's a freedom of association, right to assemble, and even right to self-defense. These are all included in your political rights. All right, so we're going to look at citizens' rights as provided for in the 1999 Constitution as amended. All right, so there are various rights in the 1999 Constitution, especially in the Chapter 4 of the Constitution, but I'm just going to focus more on the rights that have to do with your political participation and your civic duties as a citizen here in Nigeria. Now, before I go into those rights, there are some questions I want you to have in mind, and probably you might even want to ask those questions at the end of this class. So one of it is the human rights or the citizens' rights respected in Nigeria? Does the justice system have the will to treat the issues of human rights without fear or favor? So I'm pretty much asking, do you think that there is enough judicial separation in Nigeria, so much so that if you have to seek legal redress, you are very confident in the judicial system here in Nigeria? Another question is whether Nigeria has the institutional framework to tackle or grapple with citizens' rights abuse, right? So you hear about journalists being kidnapped or taken to prison, you know, for expressing their views, or even people being arrested for coming out to, you know, protest or have peaceful associations. You know, do you think that this country, do we have enough institutional framework to tackle those issues? And also, lastly, does the Nigerian government even know what human rights are? Do you think that your leaders, the people in the legislative, do you think that they know what these human rights are? And do you even think that they understand what democracy means? All right, so I'm just going to look at several of the provisions of the Constitution and what that means for us. So we have in Section 38 of the Constitution that every citizen, every person is entitled to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And this can manifest in whatever way, practice, worship, or observance, you know. And of course, some people have elevated their political views to religious status. So of course, the Constitution provides that you are free to have such thoughts or conscience or religion, right? So next we have right to freedom of expression and the press. This is one that you would have a lot of questions concerning, because due to the recent happenings, especially with the Sorosoke march that happened, you wonder if this right is even a thing in Nigeria. But absolutely right, every citizen has every citizen is entitled to freedom of expression, including the freedom to hold an opinion that does not align with the current political ruling party. You are free to have that opinion, and you're free to impart this idea and information to others without interference. Case in point is the recent Twitter ban that we are currently, coming out of. We're currently, gradually recovering from, what, your constitution says that you do have a right to express yourself, and you have a right to pass on your opinion to others without interference. You also have a right to peaceful assembly as a citizen. Every person has and is entitled to assemble freely and associate with other people in any way or form that you want, be it virtually or physically. You have a right to belong to any political party or any association, or for the protection of your interests, obviously. You also have a right to movement. So you're entitled to move around Nigeria without fear that you're going to be captured for any reason whatsoever. You also have a right to freedom from discrimination from any form, be it by virtue of your sexual orientation, your political opinions. You're not supposed to, be discriminated against based on these things. I included here right to acquire and own immovable property anywhere here in Nigeria. We do know that some of these issues do arise, but then these laws are not without exceptions, I would say. So the Constitution also provides that for the protection of other people's rights, and when it comes to the interest of public safety or public morality or public health, these are conditions where these rights could be denied. But primarily, these rights can only be altered in court, in a judicial setup, right? So these are the general provisions of the law when it comes to the rights of Nigerian citizens. Now, moving on specifically to INEC and its regulations and guidelines towards its citizens. Now, you might say, what is it really codified in the laws that I have to vote, I have to register to vote? You do not have to, but you do have a right. And I believe that it is important to exercise this right, because in the long run, it does affect you one way or the other. So a browse through the INEC portal, or even their guidelines for the conduct of election, they've been kind enough to list out several rights that accrue to each and every citizen, especially those that have gotten to the age of 18 and you're looked at as an adult. So you have the right to register to vote. So as long as you are qualified, you have the right to register for your voter's card. This right is also codified in the Constitution, where it says that you have a right to participate and be in any political party, right? So even if sometimes INEC does suspend registration, I know there was a time when my friends couldn't register in Abuja for some reason or the other. It is actually your right to register and vote in Nigeria. You also have a right to vote and be voted for. So as long as you have satisfied all the requirements, the laid down procedures, you are eligible to vote and be voted for. But you have to be a valid holder of a voter's card. You cannot be saying that you were not voted for when you have not gone through the requirements laid down in the law for voting. So to be a candidate, you must fulfill all the legal requirements, which vary depending on the elective position that you're seeking for, right? You also have a right to recall an elected representative, right? So you have a right to participate, to recall any elected legislator that you participated in voting for. To recall means to summon back or withdraw the mandate given to an elected legislator through an election. So any candidates, once they were elected to the Senate, the House of Representatives, or the House of Assembly, can be recalled by the registered voters of the affected constituency. There's a process called referendum. Sometimes you see people, castigate their elected officials, but the truth is you actually have a right. You can actually come together and decide to, recall such a representative when you are not pleased with their productivity. You also have a right to secrecy when you're voting. Your voting choices are not, you don't have to let anyone know. So during voting, especially, you have to provide sort of like a secret compartment where you can tick your ballot papers and also cast your votes. You have a right to attend rallies and campaigns of political parties and candidates, and you also have a right to gain and obtain information about any election. So no election should be conducted, especially when it has to do with a community or an actual legal position that's supposed to be filled. It shouldn't be conducted in secret. It's a crime for them to have to conduct any election in secret. You have a right to information about the date, the venue, the time, and the procedure for every election. So some of these laws are contained obviously in the Electoral Act and also in an INEC regulation. So these laws are definitely open for view. You can walk in, or you can even check online as well. They are definitely available and accessible to every citizen. I think that will be all from me. In conclusion, I'd like to say that obviously a lot of people talk about how our laws are inept, our laws are not, are not sufficient. But the truth is that the Nigerian Constitution really does outline provisions for citizens' rights. The problem is that, the implementation is the problem. If Nigerian laws were followed to the letter, we would probably have a better society. But there is a problem with implementation. We elect officials that do not even know about the provisions of this law. They don't even know their left from their rights. And then at the end of the day, you wonder if we even have laws that protect us. But the truth is, these laws are actually there, and it is in the government's hands to find a way to marry democracy, rule of law, and the rights of its citizens, I believe. So that will conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm sure Mr. Quinley is very happy to hop on and respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Edie, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. For me, this is great. So while she was making her points clearly, I decided to just fiddle up and put up together a PowerPoint. Lisa is supposed to have that, and I just want so that I have the guided structure of how this conversation will actually go. Lisa, could I have that PowerPoint, please? And this PowerPoint will be based on looking at it from, of course, a political angle. And I want it to be something you guys remember. I don't want to talk off the top of my head, and then you guys kind of get it a little mixed up. So the Constitution and citizens' rights, and I will come from a political and kind of socio-cultural angle. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. So the next slide, please. Okay, so I'd like to do a basic introduction. So most of the time we hear such talk about the Constitution, this, that, and then we seem to forget our own integrity pillars, the things that ensure us these things work, the things that make a country what it is. Everybody just is quick to this, blame this one, blame that one. I've never seen a country that points fingers so much except in Nigeria. So everybody points fingers at who does what, and nobody gets blamed exactly or is responsible for anything. So there's a basic principle for a country to work, and the basic principle is integrity. And there are those pillars that ensure that this integrity work or perform properly. So integrity, of course, could be quickly defined as the quality of having strong ethical and moral principles and following them at all times, not some of the times. So it's very good when we say, no, this person doesn't deserve this appointment, or this person doesn't believe in this, or we push forward a total position because we want to zone, and then we take out the person who actually fits or could help develop the country, and then we say it's our turn, or it's their turn, or it's whose turn. Zoning federal character. How has that really helped us particularly? If you look over the years, zoning and federal character have not necessarily brought us the exact kind of people we want to have. Yes, I would say something here. every Nigerian is marginalized. Do not assume because you're looking from your own perspective that you're the only one that's marginalized, or your tribe or whatever. 250 over 250 ethnic groups are constantly marginalized on different parameters. The question is, do we look at ourselves as Nigerians first, or do we look at ourselves as basically people who are just scrambling for posts that when we get into position, we actually will do nothing that's beneficial to the country? And this is what is most paramount. And when you look at it, it is what basically stems corruption. So we need to build strong institutions to challenge development and keep controlling corruption. But you cannot build strong institutions basically without the people. The people are the basis of any institution. So I'll give you an example. You see that guy that you give 2K so that contract you're looking for, you can push one paper forward, or you give 20K, or that guy you sign a contract with and then you give him 4 million, over a 50 million contract so that you will not execute up to half of it. You are part of the problem. And you like say everybody is doing it. Yeah, everybody is doing it. Must you do it? The thing is that whether we like it or not, the next generation will pay for the sins we're already paying for it. Some of us for the sins committed when we're in our 30s, we're already seeing the reflection in our 40s. And that is how bad it is. So, of course, integrity implies an organization also acts within strong ethical conduct and positive values, and then adopts zero tolerance of attitudes, actions, and activities by its employees or partners that deviate from that code. Now, we're ready for a lot of things. I've heard people talk about, I'll bring up a topic which people like raising, restructuring. I'll tell you something. If I ran across 47 of you on this class and I asked you to define restructuring, everyone will define restructuring on a different parameter to their own understanding. We don't have one exact word for restructuring. We don't have one exact thought process for restructuring. Everybody's thought of restructuring is different from everybody. So if you ask a professor, his thought of restructuring is different. If you ask a carpenter, thought of restructuring is different. If you ask a butcher, thought of restructuring is different. But that's not even the problem, that we do not have a unique Nigerian idea or a unique constitutional thought process or mode of thought for us to be able to do it. I think what's most alarming is now let's practice restructuring. And I'll show you a bit of what restructuring is. Since the federal INEC has handed over state elections to state electoral commissions, has anybody not in the incumbent, not in the incumbent party or controlling party of the state won an election? You guys should consider this. And you want, the judiciary is already kidnapped by the state. State election commissions are also kidnapped by the state, meaning the executive. You want to now give them police? You will turn them into, I don't even know what, I can't imagine Wiki with the state police or IAD with the state police. No offense, but come on, this will be totally radical. Could I have next slide, please, Lisa? To be totally radical. So the journey to a new Nigeria. Of course, we need to have some very, very strong balancing acts. And those balancing acts will lie first in the judiciary being independent. As long as the police remains under the Ministry of Interior, and then the Attorney General is being appointed by the President, I don't think we'll have an independent judiciary. And this is because the Attorney General or Attorney General will serve under the President. And because it's appointed by that, he will not do anything about the will of the President. We've seen this in play quite a lot of times. And police that's supposed to help back up a lot of work within, of course, the interpretation of laws is of course being taken over by the Ministry of Interior, meaning is directly under the presidency, who has been under Ministry of Interior. Now INEC too has someone appointed by the president. How do you want INEC to be independent? INEC responds to what major political parties or sways around the appointments on INEC are basically not that independent. So you have a serious problem there. Civil society. Now, I'd like to hit on this topic very well. So you have massive civic societies or civil societies functioning all across the country. I've always had a problem. Anytime you call people that have not really participated in politics to teach others how to participate in politics, you have a serious problem because they don't understand. I've been in meetings where you sit down with top-notch CSOs, and this is no offense or sub to anyone, but you sit down with the top CSOs And you hear them arguing whether a political party is being registered in CAC. For Christ's sake, I beg now. You know, you have people that have worked within such CSOs come out and buy a form and call themselves aspirants, candidates, sorry. It's a very shocking and more maligning attack on the entire democracy, thereby complicating the entire whole system. So we've always preached that, of course, you need to understand the system you're intending to teach people about. There's more to life than PVC. You're just singing PVC songs. PVC, Nigeria has never had a PVC problem. As of 2019, we had about 73 million voters with PVC and about 84 million registered voters, yet only 28 million participated. Since 2015, we've fallen below 50% of the people with PVCs participating in voting, and that is a serious problem. And if you look at it, if you go back into the earlier days, you will now see how people like Saraki's father, or the Balarabe Usmans, and the older Aminu Kanos were able to thrive in politics. It was because the average Nigerian was in a political party, so they had a say. You could stand up, not have money, and then break a parameter. But we like to throw these blames around, but the blame actually is still on us. And then the media. I'll tell you something. Give 50K to any media man. He'll tell you, he'll write any story you want him to write. You probably push forward anything you want. And this is how bad the press has fallen. I will not say every press man is guilty of it. When last did we have anything that was an investigative journalistic adventure? When last? The days of Delegiwa and Ray Ekuba, back then with Newsweek and News Times are gone. And it's sad to see that you can't have that kind of critical journalism. And please, nobody should mention David Uday in this class, please. No, thank you. No offense, but please don't. I'll go back to security operatives. Of course, we mentioned the problem with the police. We've also mentioned that we expect a 450,000 police force to police 200 million. Now, that's not even the problem. 450,000 is a bad number, but it's even better than what we have, because half of those, that's about 225, are guarding banks, vital assets, or VIPs. That means we have 225,000 people trying to police 200 million people. I think the UN standard for that is 1 to 100 at least. Now, 1 to 100, we're talking of 225,000 to 200 million. We're talking of about 1 to about, I think, correct my math, but we're talking about 1 to about 10,000. And that is astronomically crazy. Could I have next slide, please, Lisa? That's astronomically crazy. So I don't see how this could work. So now keys is, of course, implementation of existing laws. Now, you cannot implement existing laws if the people do not understand the laws. So part of government understanding the law and choosing not to execute is also because people like us don't understand what laws are to be done. So we can't even hold the government accountable, and government can dilly-dally based on what it needs for it to project and what it doesn't need to project, can of course decide to play on such parameters. Next will be an efficient National Assembly. If you do not have an efficient National Assembly, all we've been talking about, I've been seeing a lot of comments preceding 2023 elections, and all I've been seeing across board is, this person is running, this guy is running, this other guy is running. All presidents. Nobody has even cared what's going on in the legislature. $40 billion naira. Can you hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now, Edie. You dropped off for a bit.
Yeah, a call came in and I had to end it. Okay, so that's why you have people earning about close to 2 billion naira after 7, about 9 or 10 years in the National Assembly and having no bills proposed. We don't even care. We also need a reorientation of the fourth estate. I think you've done the fourth estate. I don't need to hammer on this enough. We also need equity and inclusion. Now, most people will say, create special seats for women. I'll tell you stupid. And this is why I'll tell you it is stupid. Our constitution clearly provides for the number of constituencies, and that's 109, for example, the Senate. If you're going to create a special seat for 100 women in the Senate, what is going to happen is that if they are nice, they will give the 100 women one vote in that Senate, because the constitution does not naturally provide for their existence. So, but I like what I'm seeing in 2023. I really like what I'm seeing. A lot of women can purchase State House of Assembly forms for less than 200K. I'm seeing it happen across party. People living with disabilities also having the same clause. I'm seeing all that, and then the forms cost like 1 point something. So a lot of women now. I always say this: it's easy for this to be done, but what if till women stand up? I think we're going to have a position where we are inviting them to the dinner table and they haven't yet entered the house, or they're not even on the street yet. Because if I ask all the women in this class now to raise up their hands and tell me how many people are in political parties, I doubt if I'm going to have 10. So who are we going to pick? Who are we going to pick to participate? So part of inclusion is that women too must make themselves available. There's no how we can talk inclusion without availability. I know this is a conversation you don't want to have and you want to normally stone me because I'm a guy, but it's the truth. And I'll take it back to when I was in COA party, and I remember then I think Ramish and I was running for president, and we made a move that to look better if we decided to have more female PROs, so that it's women selling the idea. I think I was sitting down then as National Public Secretary, and we went through the party, and there were states we couldn't find women. They were totally not there. They were not in the party at all. So we invited them to the table. We even said, you know what, bone the qualifications, just speak English, speak it well, and you are part of it. But there was nobody to be picked. So part of equity and inclusion is also inviting yourself, sitting down at the table so you could be picked. And it's a dual thing. So now the statement has been made, forms are made available. Women too should have to take the step forward. I'd also like to say meritocracy is very key to this. Very, very key to this. I think if we start handling things because of what zone we're caring about, we'll continue zoning around the system we have always had, and then have incompetence ahead of. I'm sure if I asked, okay, who would you like to see Ngozi Iweala again as your Okonjo-Iweala again as your Minister of Finance? Everybody will say, yay. Or if I said, can you imagine, I'll present to you Frank Nweke Jr. as your Minister of Information again, everybody will say, yay, because that is when we had a country, and it wasn't zoned because this person was Igbo, or this person was Yoruba, or this person was Okun, Shikakiri, or Wari, or whatever. It was zoned because we were deciding to make a conscious effort towards most things. And I think one of the key things I didn't write here is that we should remove emotion from everything. Anytime you make a statement that hits either women, men, or whatever, everybody wants to get emotional. In Nigeria, we're goddamn too emotional. Pardon the fact I use that word, but we're damn emotional. Somebody coming from Lagos State thinks that everybody in every other state is dumb, unintelligent, or unadvanced. It's a problem, and I deal with people across state, and I see it. Some people think they are better than this, some think they are better than that. Really? So you think I've met people in Sokoto who sound better than me, are very, very well more educated than I am. I've met people in Bayelsa with the same. I've met people in different aspects. And we need to start to kick our emotions out. We can't rise as a country if we continue to carry these emotions around, or continue to say, generally, this, because I'm this, that. Look, I'll tell you the truth. Politics, governance, being part of it, being a citizen and being an effective citizen in the country is not an easy job. It's not going to hit you on the head. Why do you think when you go to America, all of a sudden you learn its laws and start behaving within its laws? You can't do that in your country, but you can do it in America and Canada because they are white and we are black. Really? What really? So anyway, we need to also restructure the country model of governance. We already have too many MDAs functioning. I've always said it, over 1,500. That is too much for a country. Doing nothing, replication of functions and whatever. Lisa, let me have the next slide, please. And these things have actually, now I kind of love this slide because these are the amusements to, all our constitutional rights. And so we have loyalty to frivolities. And this loyalty is funny. Sometimes to an ethnic group, sometimes to a political party. Sometimes it's to a gender. Sometimes it's, come on, it's rubbish. If you can't see a Nigerian as a Nigerian, learn to see people as people, everybody the same. Yes, some people might have their limitations, but you should learn to see them as the same, meaning the best could come out of anyone. instead of undermining the person or making a statement, or somebody's trying to run for office near you, and the next thing you hear is, he doesn't have structure. Guy, calm down. What's structure in politics in Nigeria is money. I enter any political party now with 600 billion naira. Or in short, follow me. It's that simple. Structure in Nigerian politics simply means money. You can choose this definition, but take it to the bank. Trust me, that's what it means. It doesn't mean anything else. You're also loyal to funny things that they'll say, okay, because of this and this, or because it's from my place, this is how it has to be done. And it's a joke. It's a joke what we decide to do. We also have a very false sense of entitlement as Nigerians. We feel the country should do so much for us. What are you doing for the country? When last have you even done anything for the country? I know people that have lived 50 years and all they've done is deplete this country. Will totally deplete the country of everything. They've never put anything down. And then, it's funny when you decide to look at some people and you say, okay, you want to run for office. Why? Saying I was an essay to the governor. Okay. Besides being an essay to the governor, what else have you done? Nothing. So you only taken because you were given a position. You've taken from the country. But what else have you given? What have you done? Have you looked at a primary school near you or a secondary school near you and said, okay, education is bad because we're not funding it. Let me at least teach government. Let me teach English. Let me teach economics. Just 1 hour free. Go fly to a school. Try it one day. And be honest. I know we're supposed to be talking about rights, but you need to understand being a citizen to even begin to start to ask for your rights. If you're not a citizen, you can't ask for your rights. And I'll tell you something. We all think we have our holy books, yes. But our holy books as, okay, people are fasting. I think I need to rush over this. Our holy books are citizens of the Constitution. I can't emphasize this. So emotional irrationality, and then we have myths of functionality. A governor can do this, this can do this. It's not tenable. I've spoken about marginalization, which I already mentioned here. And then now, emergency state of governance. Of course, we're in a state of emergency as regards governance. We don't understand a lot of things. We don't get a lot of things we're doing. And we are yet to even reach that peak we have dreamt of as a country. And why we can't reach it is because we don't yet understand how things should function. They are set out to function, but because we don't understand how they should function, we've created a culture of how they should function and then gotten them to function in that way. Could I have the next slide, please? Now, in conclusion, none of this will be achieved without love for country. Thank you very much. And I had to put this quickly. I know I spoke very fast throughout this conversation. I'm sure we're ready for questions. Uchechi, thank you. It's me to go on what happens next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you very much. Thank you once again, Uchechi. Your session was insightful as well. We already have several hands up, and we'll go straight into the questions. Joseph Udo, let's have your question, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. And good evening, Edie. Good evening, Uchechi. It's nice to be here again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening, Joseph.
Okay, Edie. My question will come in it actually wasn't mentioned in this class, but it's still part of the Constitution. Because of the way local governments are being mishandled or sort of kidnapped by the state, like you said when you were handling psychology of politics. I've gone through, I know how local government is supposed to be, which is the closest government to the people, and it should be the most effective government, and the people should feel the impact of it. So because of how local government system is, I've been planning to start advocacy of a complete and 100% autonomy given to the local governments. There is part of the Constitution that has been bothering me. I know I tried to mention that once in one of our classes, but I couldn't really get the exact part of that Constitution. Now, Chapter 6, Section 162, which has to do with the public revenue, subsection 5, 6, and 7 precisely. has made provision for how money or how allocations are being shared from the federal to the state and to the local government. And that of local government has to come under a joint account, which is being handled by the state and the local government. To me, that alone, we know everything in Nigeria, or that governance, administration as a whole, has to do with we need finance to run government. So a situation whereby local government has to operate a joint account with the state government, to me, that does not give them a full autonomy. That was what I was trying to mention the other time. It's only that I didn't get this part. So I was like, okay, let me wait till when we have this class again, then I will bring it up. What would you advise in relation to your previous statement that local government are being kidnapped by the state government? What would you advise me to do, considering this chapter 6, subsection section 162 and subsection 5, 6, and 7, as regards the financial autonomy to local government? Because, like in my own state, the local government chairman, they don't do anything. You'll be seeing them making as in giving achievement of a 100 days in office as cutting grass in local government council, as in really. So according to them, that they don't have government, the state government don't release money for them, that all they do is release their salaries, pay councillor, pay supervisors and all this, and that's all. So they don't do anything because they are crying that they don't have financial autonomy. So sir, what's your advice as I plan to take up this advocacy campaign? Thank you, sir. Hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very much. So local government autonomy, as of the new bills passed by the Senate, of course, has been granted. It will take some time for this to be fully effective. But I think for a case of, as the part you mentioned in the Constitution, I think it was a case for checks and balances so that states actually give this money and know that this money has been released. But we such advanced with our financial resources from when the Constitution was written. So then if you have passed money to a state when it has financially, technologically advanced as we are now. But local government autonomy has already been granted by the Senate in the recent set of bills that were granted not too long ago. So we're supposed to see some difference. But here's the key thing. In every state, till you, as a member, start to challenge your local government, and probably even, for me, they have no immunity, so why don't you sue them to court on funds being used? And why they should repatriate a part of it to state government when they are autonomous. So knowing Nigeria, this local government autonomy might not take effect till about post-2023. So there's a way things have been done, and the local government chairmen were probably kind of installed, I don't think elected. So they will probably still break bones and parameters. But we'd like to see something great from 2023 on what exactly happens as regards local government autonomy. But for now, it is law, and you can check it. It's law. It's law for them to handle such matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Edie. Joseph, do you have another question? Okay, I saw your lips move. That's why I'm asking. All right, we'll move to Toluwanimi. Toluwanimi Divine, please ask your question.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for this class. I actually just learned a lot when you come on, and I'm really grateful for this. Thank you, Uchechi, and I believe my question is actually aimed towards Uchechi's lecture. Now, there's this feeling I always have, because through my experience in in the politics, I feel people are very, very, very sentimental when it comes to politics. So with regards to recalling reps back, I mean, it's a little bit of a problem because the moment you recall someone and you're the person that actually moved for the motion, there's a very strong possibility that there could be a target to your life or a threat to your life or something like that. So that's one area I think people are a bit skeptical for to recall people. That's if we ever knew that we had the power to recall. And then secondly, um, when the recall has been successfully done, uh, how do we replace the person that's been recalled? These are my questions. Thank you.
I think you're
Okay.
okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just was saying that I think his question is more tilted to the political aspect of it than the law part of it. But Uchichi, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just take the legal part of it and you can go ahead with the political aspect of it. So pretty much, I believe that the process for a recall, the purpose for it is in such a way that if you're elected to a position, you should bear in mind that there are expectations and okay, so for instance, people do campaigns and people make promises before they get elected, right? So if you go on there and then you sort of just throw caution to the wind and do whatever you want to do, I believe that the process for recall, obviously, it's not just a thing of, oh, I want you out of there, and then you can just, there's a whole step to it. There's a whole process. You have to obviously convince the voters. They have to come together and they have to sign. There's a whole lot of procedure to it. It's not a thing where you can just decide on your own and then go about it. Obviously, you probably have to lobby and gather people around, and I mean probably even campaign to get people recalled. But I think that the main purpose for it, obviously things get abused. But I think that the main purpose for it is to put people on their toes when they're elected and to ensure that people actually, I think that, this recall process, the process of referendum is very watered down. It's very underrated a lot in the political system today. I've hardly heard about any such process, taking place, but it is available to people. I think it should even be drummed up a little bit more. But I think that the main purpose is for people to know that, because you're elected, that doesn't mean that you cannot, be removed even before you finish or you complete your term. And also for you to be accountable. And, the people that elected you there, you're sort of serving them. You're sort of supposed to, get to a quota of things done. And I think that purpose that's what it serves to do. On the next question, I think I've actually forgotten what the next question was. Sorry, but Kunle, I'm sure you can take care of it.
Okay, Toluani, first and foremost, I don't believe what you just said, and I'll give you my reasons why. I'm sure you're very well aware that shortly after the EndSARS, there was a targeted response, and I can't go into details here very well, but I was very well aware of the event, so I'm going to explain what happened. So there was a recall that was attempted towards Desmond Elliott, and as the attempt was growing strength, a woman, I think of the Lagos East, I think somewhere in Amodofin or something, State House of Assembly, can't remember which one. The woman that made the statement about every young person is on drugs was now, you can Google this, was now targeted. Now I was called in to advise for those that wanted to push the report. And what happened was that I told them to get off Desmond, and here's the reason why. The total voters that participated in Desmond's election were far more than her. If she had kept quiet, I wouldn't have seen her. But because she spoke, I realized we needed just about 18,000 one signature, because 36,000 people participated in the election. So excuse me, for a recall, you need 50% plus one. So 18,001 was our number. And I was very keen in trying to push for that recall. I'll tell you what happened. She started coming to the constituency office, a place she has not been to since she was elected. She started coming to the constituency office. She started interacting with people, interfacing with people. We raised up to 5,000 signatures. That's the closest to an attempt of a recall. Dino Zone wasn't that close. And this was done post the NSAS period. And I was very key in advising. I wasn't spearheading, but I was advising at the time. And of course, it's their personal right. And we went around it through a lot of things. So I don't think your life will be targeted. No, it's a group that recalls, it's not a singular person. So people put together and then started collecting signatures, started doing things. Remember, they were offering small shops, water, this, that. They were throwing like street parties to try and get this done. This is the closest to a recall ever being attempted in Nigeria. And I remember I was the one advising on it. And I don't think we will be targeted. I think Nigerians should stop hiding behind the fact this is going to happen. Who do you think politicians are? Do you think they're as big as you think they are? At least I've sat down with a few top ones, and I've sat down on BOT level with every political party that is in contention right now in Nigeria, and they're not as powerful as you think they are. I think the people have given them a false sense of power, and they have a false sense of entitlement. They are not as strong as you think. They are more afraid of you than you think they are. It's because they also ride on the fact that you probably don't understand what you're saying. So I'll give you an example. As regards LG elections in Lagos State, or let me use Akwa Ibom. Let me use my in-laws. So Lagos, Akwa Ibom, and then people were a little scared, and the other parties are like, they don't really want to participate. And when you talk to the incumbent party, you say, yes, let's put fear that they are going to win the elections. The other parties won't participate. They count on the fact that you have the fear you have. It's a calculated process. And you know what? I think we need to knock off this thought that politicians are stupid. Please do not ever assume that. That is the greatest mistake I think Nigerian citizens do. They actually can read you. They can tell what will piss you off or not piss you off. So I'll give you an example. And I don't want to talk too much. Let me just give this an example. In everything they are doing, have you seen them affect things they know can affect you that will piss you off? So I'll give you an example. Imagine something funny happening that actually affects Nigerians from doing owambes or parties. Nigerians will burn down Nigeria. Trust me on that one. Do you see how stupid it sounds? But yes, we burn Nigeria for that. And if you think politicians don't know that, yes, we do. That as long as your owambes are guaranteed, one of a few of you win some small political appointments, you will not do anything. And that is the point. I know you asked something else. I can't remember about the recall, but I can't remember what exactly that other line was. Toluwanimi, please, could you?
Okay. Ed, this is what I'm saying, and believe me, sir, I have had that experience before. You're trying to recall a politician, a rep from whatever it is they're supposed to be, from the federal seat or something. Now, the moment, recalls usually start with maybe you putting up the idea, like the woman you cited now, who actually put up the idea and then walked up to the constituency office and started, interacting with people. Now, there is that possibility of your name being mentioned, that, oh, it was this guy that actually started it and we're actually trying to move this on for him or something. Now, with my experience, there is a very strong possibility that your life could be at stake, because the person that you're actually recalling is actually like it's almost like you're recalling them from something that is very precious to them. Now you're trying to, like Yoruba will say, sorry, and it's like it's a threat to their own career. Likewise, they would treat it as a threat. They will make it like you are supposed to be threatened to. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, recalling could be actually a dangerous thing to do, because your life will probably be under threat.
I don't want this thought process being sold, and I will not agree. And here I have reasons why. I remember when I was advising on that recall, at least I've advised on an attempt. So I think I have a little experience there. So when I advised on it, I said, the person to champion this recall should be the person who she ran against that took second. It's a politician. If you hide under that, you're fine. Everything works in a particular way. There's always a way. There's always a way. And if I remember your second question, now I'm clear with your second question. Your second question was, when recalled, what happened? So if the number of signatures are verified by INEC and they meet over half of the total voting population that the person used to get into office, what happens is that INEC sends a letter to the speaker, whichever house the person is, sends to the speaker of the house or the Senate president or the speaker of the House of Assembly. And then it starts to prepare for an election in 90 days to replace the person. And now in those 90 days, the person who was recalled cannot run. I hope that is key. The person who was recalled can't run. So I think,
okay.
I don't want us, like I said, keep emotion out of politics. There are always ways to do things. The problem is how you choose to do it. So I'll give you an example. When the idea of the electoral college first came, and we tried to put it together with a few friends, you know what I was accused of? I was accused of post-election depression. Now, with the amount of work the electoral college has done, was it viable or not? So there's always a way people see things, but you can't change this country if you do not take a risk or if you do not try to break the parameters that already exist. I don't believe in anything that has not been done. I remember when with COA we're trying to pull something and they said INEC will never ratify an e-election within a state executive council. We got that done. The COA remains the only party to have pulled that in Nigeria's history, sometime in 2018. And these things are possible. Thing is that, have we found out how to pull them? I don't know whether Uchechi was in the electoral college, but I'm sure Maureen was there at the time. No, Uchechi was. I think Uchechi was a student then. When we pulled the virtual debate in Lagos East by-elections, senatorial by-election, most people were trying to pull a debate virtually. We're called crazy now. Maureen, did we pull it or not? Been there, done that.
We did.
How many days planned? I'm right, about 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks.
Been there, done that. So you are limited by how much you think your mind works. And that's what I would like to say. And this is not story. If I haven't done some things, I wouldn't say what I'm saying. But trust me, you're limited by how your mind works.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dee. Thank you. And thank you for the question, Toluwanimi. Insightful question led to insightful answers. So we'll move to Rogers. Rogers, I trust you're here. Please ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Edie. Thank you for the amazing presentation. The both presentation has been so wonderful. Mine is just to get some clarification. I heard Edie talking about, when we talk about structure, we mean money. I know in one of the earlier classes, you made very important presentation with statistics, where you talked about influence as one of the key and very important factor, followed by strategy before even money and the communication. So I don't know, I'm a little bit confused comparing that class and this class now when you're talking about structure as being money, as money being very, very important. And I know some of us asked this question last time, but from what you presented and the data you showed, it actually showed that influence has a key role for a candidate. And today I'm hearing structure and money again. So please kindly clarify. Thank you.
You should understand that when we are speaking concepts, we are speaking from different. So what I was saying is when Nigerians ask for your structure in politics, it simply means they are asking for your money. It has nothing to do with what I described in psychology of politics. So there are two different parameters. So right now, just talking about when your friend wants to run and they say, do you have structure? or they say, he joined this party. Does the party have structure? I'm just referring that Nigerians refer to money when they use that statement. You understand what I'm saying, Rogers? Rogers, are you there? Rogers, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Edie, I can hear you. I'm looking for Rogers so I can ask him to unmute.
That's gone quiet. Said he.
Rogers, go ahead.
Yes, I get you clearly. Thank you for the clarification. That's what I just wanted to get clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Edie. So our next question is from King Kusan. King Kusan, please ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Edie and Uchechi, for an insightful lecture. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just surprised King Kusan has a female voice.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my question is, the federal government gave a directive for people's lines, people's lines to be blocked. That means they can't make outgoing calls, right? And now Serap is saying that it is unlawful. They can't, it's infringing on their rights of freedom of communication. So I want to ask now, is the government's right for giving that directive for people's phone numbers to be blocked from doing outgoing calls? Or is Serap actually right for saying that the federal government is infringing on their fundamental rights of freedom of communication? And why I'm asking is because the federal government had actually given a period of time for people to do this name linkage and they didn't do it. Thank you.
Oh, wait, you know the funny thing, you asked the question and you answered it. So it's funny, you asked the question and you answered it. So was the time given? Yes. Was the time extended? Yes. I believe over the last 2.5 years, the federal government has been warning people on regards of linking and matters of national security. They have said that constantly for a long time. True or false? You want to say you ain't received text messages?
No, true, they did. They gave a period of time and they extended it.
It's the same issue with accounts and BVN. Federal government gave a deadline, extended over 1.5 years, I remember. And then they still extended by another 6 months. People refuse to do it. Then they now complain that they're infringing on your personal rights. No, come on. We want to know which line is for who is being linked with who. And this is not in support of government or whatever. But, sometimes, no offense, but Serap should chill. Everything the government does, they're always against it. They should chill. They should honestly chill. If you ask me, they should chill. Because it's not like this was not clear-cut. Federal government has declared, threatened, courts. I remember sometime last year, you remember it was even what even broke the parameters of COVID when they decided to continue. Do you remember? And people were complaining that during COVID, they were allowing people register for NIN, but they didn't want people to go to church. You remember the parameter? Federal government that long. Over 1 year. How many deadlines do you want? If Nigerians refuse to do it, I don't think they'll be finished. These are matters of national security. I'll tell you, if you enter another country, which is not Nigeria, you can't use a SIM card that is not registered to your name or your identity or your passport. And we all know that. And it works fine there, and we feel it helps our security there. Why is it in Nigeria? Or you want to go to like the UAE and tell them, no, I'm not going to register my SIM. I'm going to use a phone in Dubai. Are you crazy? So I don't understand you see, this is the problem with citizens. I've always spoken about the fact that our emotional nature does not allow us to think about Serap is giving 48. Anyway, I'd rather not discuss this matter. I don't want to be caught on tape blasting some people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you for your question, King Kusan. Again, we are curious why does King have a female voice? Joseph asked a follow-up question earlier that I would like to ask. Please, what section of the Constitution makes provision for a recall? I don't think that question was answered.
I actually answered it. I did answer it in the chat box. he also acknowledged as well. So you can check section 110 of the Constitution for the process of recalling members of the House of Assembly. Also, just to add to what Mr. Kuli said on Kusan's question, I did mention earlier that these rights are not without limitations, especially when it comes to matters of public interest and national security. These rights can definitely be taken away from you. So for what you asked, your question, there was a lot of time given, and again, it's for the purpose of national security. So definitely, those rights are not without any form of curtailing. Yeah, so the section is 110 for House of Assembly members. For the other ones, you can actually just research on them.
Thank you very much, Uchechi. I appreciate that. Toby, you are next. Please ask your question. Hello, Toby, are you there? We cannot hear you, so perhaps you can place your question in the chat room. Oof.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Idisa and the second presenter, Uchechi. Okay, I'm directing my question to the two presenters. The first person talked about the rule of law. And my question in that aspect has to do with especially in Nigeria, per se, we know what is right. With our educational exposure, we actually know what is right and the right thing to do. But in practice, it seems like it always, end up giving us the wrong results. From the explanations that was given concerning the rule of law and the right, freedom of expression and the rights of citizens, why is it that Nigeria, as it is today, the legislators, the executive, and the judiciary have not really come to terms to know that Nigerian constitution, as it's being operated, does not have this principle of rule of law in place? That's my question. Then on the side of integrity, I want to ask, everybody know what is integrity? Oh, that means that there is already a mistrust between the electorate and the elected in this country. Let's be factual. Because if somebody like Desmond Elliot, who we know very well, in terms of age and his youthful exuberance, could be given this mandate to go and represent and got their turn around against the youth. What do I mean by turn against the youth? Take for instance, during the NSAS protest of 18, we knew what happened and everything that played out. These people didn't come out to say anything. How do we, as electorates, or those of us who are coming, because we are looking up to these people, it's what they are doing, we are looking up to. If I have had the opportunity of getting to these positions, I will still do, it's just as if I'm replicating. I want to do what I've seen them do. So my question on the side of integrity is this. If we, what At what point can we say yes, that the electorate should get these people responsible? That if your integrity is not there, even if it means for us to recall you, we go to the last voter to make sure you are being recalled. How do we do it? That is my question. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. I think there's a grace between myself and Uchechi on who to answer this question. Uchechi, do you want to answer it?
I think you can answer, Mr. Kule, because I think the question is more about like practicality, because if you're asking about how to go about it, I mean, the law is already clear on what to do. It's really just people being informed and taking the right, steps, like just how Kule was answering Mr. Tolu's question, being bold enough and stepping out and doing what's necessary. Well, I'm sure Mr. Kule has a lot more to say to that. Yeah.
I'll say this and I'll make this clear. I cannot divorce you from what you think. I can't. I can attempt to by exposing you to more knowledge, but I can't divorce you from what you think. The Constitution is clear on what it is. You cannot say this government does not operate by the rule of law. If they do not operate by the rule of law, you allowed it. We allowed it. It's not only you, me, you, everybody, Nigeria. If anybody functions within those parameters, yes, we allowed it. So don't make it look like I don't understand this creation that government is one machine that does not listen to people or acts anyhow it wants to act. Don't you attend their birthday parties? Ain't you at their swearing? Ain't you at their inauguration? Ain't you at their children's birthday parties? Don't you take pictures with them and post on social media and your friends say you made it? Come on, are you divorcing yourself from the situation? You can't. No. And I keep telling you guys, you can't. It's not allowed. So we either understand governance and push for something that's bigger than ourselves, or decide to play the cat and mouse, the ostrich and sand game, which is what we always play, and say government is not following rule of law. Government can never follow rule of law if people don't follow rule of law. Let me ask a direct question. Who went to driving school before they learned how to drive? Who? They're as guilty as the government. A lot of you, if you take an average, we are 42 in this class. If I take an average, I'm sure we have 30 people that just bought cars and started driving. Or they just push car out of their father's garage. Me, I'll tell you, me, I'm one of them. I just pushed car outside my father's garage when he and his wife were sleeping. New big boots. I just pushed it out. Man, pushing that car was heavy, and I was just like 16. Anyway, we pushed that car out of the garage and just started driving it. From there, I started driving. Which dirty license? We're all guilty of the same, right? Encroaching and infecting the same system. So why then do we point fingers? Okay, because it's cool to be in government. I'll tell you, I mean, people, a few in government. I get to see a few things, and I ask myself the question: if I'm in government, can I even take what Nigerians offer? Because it's annoying. But let's go ahead for the purpose of this conversation and describe the things that need to be described. First and foremost, if you do not act within your entity and follow your constitution and hold things accountable, we won't have a better country. If you do it, you do it. If 42 of us on this, 41 of us on this class now do it, I know where we'll be headed. Till then, you can't continue to say Nigeria has no rule of law or Nigeria operates within. No, you can't say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. Toby has a question or a contribution, but before Toby talks, Edie, I may be wrong, but yeah, so I may be wrong. Feel free to correct me. But I think that one reason we are here is also people do not want to be criticized. People do not want to take responsibility for the backlash. So an example is when there was a protest against the removal of subsidy by the Jonathan government. A lot of people who spearheaded or were seen to be at the forefront of that movement when they came out later to say, to either stand in for elections or to contest or, to say anything, I know a number of people have said to them, oh, but you were the one that was supporting Buhari, you were the one that was doing this, and it's like, what's the correlation between arguing for what we want and supporting one other candidate? So I do think that part of the reason that we're not doing a lot is nobody wants to be seen as the leader of a movement where there'll be a backlash. Toby, you may ask your question. Idi has drank water, so I assume he's not going to respond to that.
No, it's true now. Nobody. No,
okay, thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sir. The reason why I asked this question is, let me be specific. When you talk of the rule of law, it means that the law is supreme. No matter how you want to twist it, it's always supreme. It stands on a balance. If we look at what have happened in the past, especially during this Buhari administration, we discover that court cases that revolve around politicians, electoral matters, are expeditiously resolved. But you see some cases that are not politically related. These cases drag for years. And you begin to ask yourself, if you are not in the political class, is it that you cannot get a speedy court judgment on your matter or whatever? Okay, let me just mention one. I don't know if I'm permitted. What happened in Ebonyi State? And within weeks or in less than 3 months, the whole thing was resolved. But I am aware that there are people awaiting trials in this country, and even some people that have been under security custody are waiting trial. And it seems like their case is into eternity. That's why I'm stringing it into the line of rule of law. So I would like, that is the area I'm trying to let you address on. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we need to be clear on this. You can't compare a state, an issue that matters, that borders on the matter of whether a governor has the right to sit on a seat, to an argument between two brothers over their father's land. Those cases, I'm not saying they're not important, but to the state, it's better resolved it has a governor or does not have a governor. And that is the situation we need to address. Has the judiciary failed? No. Are they overwhelmed? Yes. Do Nigerians go to court over irrelevant matters? Yes. Have those irrelevant matters made our courts overstressed? Yes. So there's, like I said, in any place in the world, whether it's Singapore, New York, they have cases. When it comes to political matters on whether a governor sits or not, trust me, it's number one. While Clinton was being pressed as president for sexual harassment, it was not one case in the US. It was being dealt with immediately and swiftly because it involved the president of the United States of America. And you need to understand those parameters in matters of the state and its sovereignty or national security. Those cases actually supersede or are picked up as not more important, but of higher priority than trivial matters. I'm sure Uchichi will have something to say over this question.
Sorry, Kule, I didn't catch that last thing you said.
I said as regards matters of the state, priority will be placed in settling such matters than trivial matters. That's what I said.
Okay, I think that pretty much covers it. Honestly, I don't have anything else to add. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Edie. Thank you very much, Uchechi. We do have one final question that was asked by Adewale. I left it for last because I do think it's a question that was answered in our judiciary class. Why is it expensive to get justice in Nigeria? A typical Nigerian would rather avoid a police case than to insist and fight for their rights.
I think that's an Uchechi question. Thanks.
Wow. Actually, so is it the executive or the judiciary? Because the police would fall under the executive. So if we're talking about the moment where it gets judicial, I don't think it is expensive. So what exactly is expensive about the judicial process? I do know that there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, magu that goes on with, the police and everything. But I mean, I always advise people have a lawyer handy, but people always think that you're doing the most by, getting the services of a lawyer. But the truth is, you need to know your rights. You need to know, that you're not supposed to pay the policeman money to do anything. Bail is free. I mean, a well-versed lawyer is able to get you out of, well, myself, I am able to get you out of that kind of situation. But people, want to, go head on, which of course they should be able to, but this is the society that you've seen ourselves in. Other than that, I would say the legal process is pretty, straightforward. We pretty much follow the law books, the procedural books in terms of, applying for whether it's your fundamental human rights that has been infringed on, or a civil suit or a criminal suit. There is the federal high courts or the state high courts rules of procedure, which every lawyer ought to follow. I mean, your case will not even be looked at if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not filing the right documents, and it's not expensive to file. So again, it's a problem of information, a problem of knowing what's applicable to you. You can actually state your case on your own. You don't even need a lawyer, to be honest. It's just for you to be well-versed with what the law provides for you in that case. But yeah, I would say if you do not know what law applies, get the services of someone who does know what law applies to your case. But I'll say by and large, it's not a judiciary problem when it comes to the expensive nature of it. If you're talking about the fact that it takes long, yes, I will agree with you, because there's a lot of frivolity when it comes to adjournments and unnecessary delays. But I think Lagos, by and large, is trying to curb that problem when you're comparing it to other states. Yes, I think Lagos has at least achieved some level of digitization, even though we still have a long way to go. But for the expenses, I think it's more magu that happens at the police station. Kule, am I speaking falsehood or not?
The magu in the police station is an advanced thing in Nigeria, and we cannot discuss Nigeria without such parameters. So honestly, I think we cannot ignore those factors, but it's all in trying to achieve a better country. I feel like, I'll say something. So discussing with a friend who's within recruitment in police, and I think this needs to be said. So it was like, many people don't want to apply from the South to become policemen. I see quite a lot of Northerners. And later they'll say Northerners and IT. And I was like, why is this? And they said, Southerner, you come back home and say you're a policeman, you'll think you failed. So I'm not saying it's not Northerners that are the cause of this, so please let me not be quoted wrong. But I'm saying a lot of us do not want to join and be part of the system to try and repair the system. The truth is we must all make conscious efforts to try and build the system. The system will not build itself. Just like Constitution will not fly on the head to say you're wrong or you're right. We need to start to participate in all parameters to ensure that all this go well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie. And with that, we have come to the end of this evening's session. We are super grateful for all that has been shared so far. We're thankful to Uchechi. Thank you so much for your presentation, brief and insightful. Thank you very much, Edie, for challenging us, and causing us to question our beliefs and feelings and thoughts about the process, the entire process, electoral, judicial, and executive. So at this moment, we'll all unmute ourselves and express our gratitude. So feel free to unmute.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Uchechi.
Thank you, Uchechi. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you. Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Uchechi.
Thank you,
Really
Edie.
appreciate
Thank you,
Thank you for
Uchechi.
tonight.
Boss
Thank
Edie
you,
and
Uchechi. Thank you,
Uchechi,
Edie.
thank you so
Bye.
much. A better Nigeria.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Uchechi.
All right, and on that note, we'll say good night, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Remember to, prepare for the graduation and for next week's session. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.